Aye, what's really going on? Bitcoin cryptocurrency. Today, going to be taking a look at XLM, Stellar Lumen, against USDT. Going to be taking a look at some of these key technical aspects of price action moving forward. Going to be assessing some of these pivotal areas of support and resistance I believe we're going to be interacting with in the very near future here. Price action just seemed to be making its way kind of downward. We have seemed to have found resistance off of that 38-cent kind of level. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Do you think price action is likely headed downward, perhaps toward lows of like less than 25 cents? Or are you bullish and you think price action has found support and we're likely to interact with that 50 plus cents to almost $1 range where we came from not too long ago? Let me know in the comments down below your kind of strat moving forward. If you have some XLM, some Bitcoin, do you trade? Do you hold? What are your thoughts on kind of price action moving forward? So now jumping right into it to kind of recap this price action that appears to be, interacting with very significant resistance up at these levels here. The kind of uptrend that has been very bullish since kind of the end of October, beginning of November. We've had some volatile spikes upward and tens of days of consolidation downward kind of thing. So like, perhaps like a month or so, or over a month of bearish consolidation before we find our way upward again. After kind of rallying up, and then sideways, we appear to be stuck in this kind of longer phase of what appears to be sideways still, with crazy swing highs of like 77 cents, 78 cents, and then we've seen lows of now like 31 cents to even like 28, 27. And so there's lots going on with price action at the moment. I suspect, based on candles opening and closing below my 38-cent resistance level, which was significant support all the way from like the beginning of February all the way until pretty much just a few days ago. We have found very significant support along 38 cents, but this also is now looking to be resistance moving forward for a period of time, and we have experienced resistance off of 38 cents kind of back in the beginning of January and then the end of January before we broke and set some kind of higher highs. I suspect price action could be bearish enough to find its way all the way down to that 24-cent level, which would be our next kind of significant support line if we were to get rejected off of 38 cents in a more bearish manner, and say we print those kind of like lower highs past those wicks in 23rd of May and the 19th of May, and if we interact with that 24-cent line, we could perhaps suspect some midterm bearish price action, some accumulation between these ranges for a period of weeks, perhaps a month or so, before we find our way upward again. I'm still bullish overall long term, although some downside might be pending in our very near future. So when we consider EngineeringRobo, along with the Fibba-Zucchini lines of Illuminati, sacred geometry, and symmetry, we can see a new perspective come into play when we consider these Fibonacci levels correlating with what I believe are going to be very significant local support and resistance. We have the 0.382 at 32 cents. That is going to be a very significant, more bullish support level if we can hold that. But like I've been suggesting, if we do fail to hold that level, we could interact with 24 cents. There is a very, very bearish low of that 0.236 Fibonacci line at 21 cents. Ultimately, I do think we're bullish enough to stay above that level, but that is kind of my most sort of bearish target. We have my kind of resistance line there at 38 cents, just below 41 cents, which is the 0.5 Fibonacci line, which is going to be a significant kind of local resistance going forward. Between the 0.5 and the 0.618 line is my 48 cent resistance level. The 0.618 Fibonacci line is at 51 cents, and so we do seem to have some rather significant resistance kind of ahead of us before we can interact with those kind of like 50 cent plus kind of ranges back to that swing high where we came from off of these multiple rejections off of the FOMO zone kind of thing. Very high technical sell pressure is going to be present above that kind of like FOMO zone, this red kind of line here. And so as price action gets into those levels, you can expect very high sell pressure or perhaps very volatile pumps and dumps up or down if the coin becomes bullish enough fundamentally. But I do believe there is a lot of technicals in play for Stellar at the moment that do suggest some perhaps continued downside in the short to midterm before we interact with that FOMO zone again. I wouldn't suspect a reversal occurring until we've seen some significant rejections off of the swing highs around like 76, 78 cents kind of thing. So in the long term, I do believe we're still quite bullish in my opinion, but after what has been a very bullish past year kind of thing, I do believe some continued downside in the short term might be necessary for the uptrend to continue. More short-term bullish if we can hold that 0.382 level at 32 cents, but I suspect over the coming weeks we could find our way all the way down to 24 cents with that sell 2, sell 3, hell, sell 4 all coming into play during that crazy candle back at the 19th of May there that opened at like 64 cents, wicked down to 28 cents, but then closed at like 44 cents. that kind of gave us our sort of range that we've been accumulating in kind of now. And so I suspect this phase of accumulation to perhaps break downward and go into some lower levels kind of moving forward. When we consider XLM against Bitcoin, we can see a new perspective come into play when we consider significant resistance and rejections off of this zone between 1204 and 1289 Satoshi. The rejections off of that level do seem to be bringing us down all the way to what could be support found around like 933 Satoshi, in my opinion. We could be more bullish if we can find our way above 1033, but ultimately I do believe some lower levels are going to present themselves. We could have some very aggressive wicks down to 753 Satoshi over the course of time, but ultimately we are still looking still bullish long term, in my opinion. When we consider EngineeringRobo, along with the Fibba, Illuminati, Zucchini, Lamborghini lines of geometry, we can see a new perspective come into play. Considering this sell for and hell against the price of Bitcoin, we could see perhaps some more bearish price action against the price of Bitcoin, as Bitcoin is going to have to figure itself out in the next coming days here. I believe the the entirety of the crypto market is in for a bit of a jarring kind of week ahead of us, and so other cryptocurrencies might see some bearish price levels as Bitcoin needs to kind of figure itself out in the next coming days. And so based on that sell for and hell, like I was saying, we could see some perhaps prolonged midterm bearish price action, making our way all the way down to that 0.382 level, just below the 200 daily moving average. And so if we can hold the 0.382 Fibonacci line at 846 Satoshi, we can still be very bullish long term. Price action interacting with that 200 daily moving average against the price of Bitcoin can still be bullish long term if we stay above it. If we start closing below, then we could expect perhaps some prolonged bearish price action and some more sideways to occur. Interaction with that 752 Satoshi level there is not impossible, but I believe slightly unlikely, as I do believe that 0.382 Fibonacci line is going to be a more significant support level moving forward. The 0.5 Fibonacci line is just above kind of where price action is right now at 997 Satoshi, and so I believe that is looking like some mini resistance moving forward. If we can't kind of return to where the candle opened kind of yesterday, like if price action can't pretty much recover all the way back up to 1048, then I do suspect interaction with that 200 daily moving average to be in our very coming future here. The 0.618 Fibonacci line was a local resistance moving forward, supporting this kind of like resistance zone at like 1205 to 1287. So that 0.618 Fibonacci line at 1146 was ultimately significant resistance enough to cause all these candles to start their bodies to close kind of below that level, making any kind of more bearish and more significant resistance, bringing us down to that 0.5 line. But like I said, we appear to be kind of breaking it based on the current price action at this instant, but we could very well recover. Momentum could change at any moment, but ultimately I do suspect that we could make our way down to that 0.382 Fibonacci line at 846 Satoshi, but ultimately we can still be bullish long term if the 200 daily moving average is below price action. So as long as we still have daily candles closing above that 200 moving average, then I think we're still bullish long term. But if we were to consider Bitcoin against USDT, we can see a new perspective come into play as this recovery is nearing a very vital point. We seem to have a very, very strong bounce off of 32K there, price action coming down to 31K, printing a higher low relative to 30K at the 19th of May. And that was a relatively kind of like similar low to the 23rd of May at 30, kind of like 170. Ultimately, this accumulation phase, I believe, is still playing out. We can have some kind of mini pullbacks here. We're going to come down. We're going to find support. Price action could rally all the way up to these kind of previous points of rejection, these like resistance found around like 39K, all the way up to that 0.618 Fibonacci line at 41,500. Price action could make its way all the way up there and send us right back down, as that is going to be very, very, very significant resistance moving forward. And even if we were to come back up to it, it is not impossible for us to get rejected right back down, and for this accumulation phase to play out over the next kind of period of weeks to perhaps a few months. I mean, we've been kind of sideways below that 200 daily moving average for almost a month now. I suspect perhaps a month or two at least of accumulation before we can find our way perhaps above that level again. Ultimately, currently, I'm still bullish long term. The fundamentals of Bitcoin are kind of holding it against the very, very, bearish sell pressure, technical sell pressure present under that 200 daily moving average, especially with that retest off of it at the 26th of May there. This phase of accumulation is going to play out quite sideways for a period of time, I do believe, in my opinion. Like I said, the fundamentals of Bitcoin are still very, very bullish, and these dips are being bought up very, very nicely. And so, I mean, this is still a level. Bitcoin is still in high demand at this price level, and so I mean, I don't suspect the bull market to be over quite yet. I suspect price action to still be quite bullish long term, in my opinion. This 50% ish kind of pullback from 60K to 30K, if you will, I believe is very healthy and very necessary for the uptrend to continue, as we are up hundreds of percentages since kind of this time last year. Now, thank you for hearing my analysis. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Do you trade? Do you hold? Or do you let the price action unfold? What are you doing with your XLM, with your Bitcoin? Are you diamond hands through all this crazy sell-off? Are you accumulating during these lows? Are we going to return back to all-time highs in the coming weeks here? Or are you bearish and you got some big shorts planned and you think we're coming back to where we came from? And, thank you for hearing my analysis. Try EngineeringRobo free with the link in the description. Subscribe here on YouTube. Check out all the other social media down below and tune in for the next one.